Hi there.
Hi.
Hi. So welcome to the Rider Revolution video series. This is video 2 in our little series. In the first video we talked about the common seat mistakes which are preventing you from making progress. And our goal with this series is that by the end of the series you'll have a better idea of a clear path forward, and you'll know what to avoid, what things to avoid in addressing and trying to fix your seat mistakes, which things can help you and which things are actually maybe even making matters worse. So in this video we were wanting to talk about what?
Lunge lessons.
Lunge lessons.
Yeah, traditionally, the young riders learn to sit at the lunge line, right? But lunge lessons are not available everywhere anymore, right? Because lunge lessons only make sense if you have a safe horse and a horse with
well-trained, well-tuned.
Yeah, well-trained enough. The horse that's in balance, that can give you the right feel.
Yeah. There's no point in learning a bad feel. Like
Right.
many people teach lunge lessons on horses that are old and creaky and not even sound. And this gives the rider completely the wrong feeling. The point is to learn the way to sit on a well-trained horse that gives you the right feeling.
Yeah, and the gaits shouldn't be too big, not too hard to sit.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would be unmanageable for a beginner.
It's torture.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so, well, we used to teach a lot of lunge lessons. We had some.
I took a ton of lunge lessons back in the day.
Yeah, and they can work if you have a good teacher, if you have a good horse. But if you don't have a suitable horse, then they
what do you do?
will not help a lot.
Are you completely screwed if you don't have access to lunge lessons, either a good teacher or a good horse? And so we've actually come up with ways, and actually maybe even explain how you came up with some of this before we get into this.
Yeah, well, there were times when I didn't have a riding teacher available, but I wanted to continue to improve. And in the absence of somebody standing in the arena telling me do this or don't do that, don't make that mistake and so on, I thought I somehow have to find a way to enlist the horse's help to tell me what I'm doing right and wrong, right? And so I started experimenting with the seat, and basically I looked for the horse's feedback and offered him alternatives, like what if I think I'm sitting straight, but of course the body, sometimes lies to us, right? So I, leaned forward from where I thought was neutral, right? And then watched the horse's reaction. Well, does he now feel better and rounder, or does he feel worse, right? And then I would
Does the horse go better? Is he happier?
Exactly.
Or is he? Does he go worse? Is he less happy?
Yeah. Then I would go back to what I thought was vertical, and then behind that, and then by going back and forth, you find that. There is a certain place where the horse feels best, round, soft, going forward, the back feels good, and so on.
And we're going to cover some of this actually in a later video,
exactly.
Some ideas and some things that you can do.
Yeah. So by doing these experiments and watching the horse's reaction, and letting the horse show you what he prefers, what type of position, you stop thinking of the seat as something, a form, a superficial form that you emulate, because that's a little bit the danger of lunge lessons, that you kind of emulate a dressage rider, so to speak. You pose on the horse, right? You think this is what a dressage rider should look like, and that can make you very stiff, and then you may be very disconnected from the horse,
And the rider can even look very pretty, very beautiful, but there's no connection between the rider's seat and how it operates and the horse. And that defeats the purpose. The whole point of having a good seat is so that we can communicate effectively with the horse, so that we can help the horse move better, and so that we're not causing the horse pain. And also so that we're using our seat to help the horse develop themselves even better, to shape the movement of the horse even better.
Yeah, exactly. So that's really important, that you use the seat to influence the horse, to communicate with the horse, to shape the horse, help the horse balance himself, get straighter, and so on.
So it needs to have function.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about influence the seat has on the horse. And the horse will tell you what influence you have. The horse will either get better or worse every time you change something, and there are always only finite ways in which you can change the seat. You can lean forward and back or left and right. You can rotate your pelvis left and right. You can hollow the back or round the back. Right? You can sit more on the left seat bone, more on the right seat bone, and so on. So it's always a very limited number of options you have, and then you can go back and forth between them and watch where does my horse feel the best, where does he seem happiest and roundest and softest, and so on.
But let's talk about lunge lessons.
Yeah, lunge lessons.
What's good and bad about
Yeah,
them?
advantage of lunge lessons is that you don't have to worry about steering. Somebody else is doing that for you. You don't have to hold the reins. You don't have to do anything complicated. You can really just focus on feeling the seat, feeling the horse's movement, and finding your balance on the horse. So from that perspective, it can also protect the horses a little bit from the riders, so that the riders don't just pull on the reins to steer or to
hang on,
slow down, and so on. Downside of lunge lessons can be, especially if the horse is hard to sit, it could make you grip and hold on with the hands on the pommel, or if you have a little SOS strap. A lot of riders just hang on for dear life.
Really well against the
yeah.
horse's movement.
That
This is
can
one
happen, yeah.
downside that I've seen sometimes.
Yeah.
That unless the rider is given the instruction to learn how to feel into the movement of the horse, the rider ends up just bracing and enduring the movement, kind of like, and this defeats the purpose.
Right. Or it can lead to gripping legs. Traditionally you ride without stirrups at the lunge line and without reins and so on. But if the rider's not very balanced, if the horse is hard to sit, then it invites the rider to grip with their legs and to hold with the hands on the saddle. So it makes it difficult for the rider to let go and find their balance actually. And then it introduces stiffness and rigidity into the rider's body. And that makes it, more difficult than for the horse to find this balance and to relax under the rider. So that's why lunge lessons are not necessarily the best way to learn to sit. With the right horse and the right teacher, they can be useful, of course, but there are other things you can do.
It can be good, but it's not always the be-all, end-all solution, and many riders just don't have access.
Exactly.
They just don't have that as an option, so what do you do? Well, we're going to get to that. But in our next video of the series, we're going to talk about which seat corrections can actually make your riding worse, can make your seat actually worse. In the effort to correct some of the mistakes, they actually create bigger mistakes. So we're going to talk about that in the next video.
Yep.
Yeah, see you there.